Hi, everybody. I want to thank you for checking out the first video in my series that I'm going to call Creative Conduit. It's kind of a podcast, video cast. It's going to be conversations with friends I've met through music, other artistic endeavors, and it's going to be conversations kind of circling around like creative process, inspiration, like where we draw it from and how we apply that to creativity, as well as the tools we use for those endeavors and how we like personally connect to them, what we look for in them, and how we use those things like to create. So it's not going to be super gear based. We'll get into some nerdy talk, I'm sure. But as a whole, just focusing more on like the connection we have to those objects rather than like the fascination with brands and other gear. But yeah, my first guest was my good friend Julian Russell. We had a great conversation, kind of spanning, his upbringing in music and what he's up to now, and kind of his process of songwriting and kind of some gear he uses to do that. So I've known Julian for years and years now. We played in a couple bands together. The first of which was a pop punk band called Busy Living back in the day. I played drums, he played guitar, tons of fun. And then more recently, a band called The Longest Year, which we both played guitar in. And it was, some of the best music that I've been able to make with a bunch of really good friends. So a lot of good times with Julian. And as far as people I know that know theory, he's definitely towards the top of the list. So if I ever have a question, I'm stuck on something, I know that I can go to him and he can clear it up, no questions asked. So yeah, make sure you check out his band Ritual Room. I'm going to play some of their track before the conversation and afterwards. So check them out, support him, and make sure you stick around for the whole video and subscribe and check out the other conversations I'll do.
Go right into it. So if you just want to take a few moments, tell the folks who you are, what you're into, what kind of music you're into these days.
Okay, Julian Russell. Most people know me from bands like Busy Living and Whispered Hollows and Guardians, and it's a handful of others. I'm in Ritual Room right now. As far as music I'm into, it goes all over the place. It's barely even worth trying to pinpoint it to me because it's the spectrum is like I just like anything good and interesting to the ear. So
always changes too. It's kind of a loaded BS question, but so I know quite a bit about your music history and your upbringing, but if you just want to go ahead and tell everybody how you got started in music, what got you interested in it, and
yeah. So I come from a pretty musical family. Like pretty much everyone on my dad's side of the family is a musician. And being around that at a young age kind of sparked the interest. So let's see. I started playing drums when I was 11 or 12, just like for school, or like I started taking lessons, and then I backtrack. Okay. Started in Australia, moved here.
that is crucial.
That's kind of a detail. Yeah. So took drum lessons in Australia. Then I moved here and was in middle school and did like percussion in middle school. And then I had like toyed with guitar a little bit because my dad had one at the house in Australia. And then my mom, he had like a nylon string chilling in her place. So I just like kind of noodled around on that whenever I wasn't able to play drums, which kind of just like developed into all sorts of other stuff.
So what instruments did your folks play?
My dad's a pianist. My mom can play guitar quite well, even though she doesn't anymore. She used to be really into classical. but I have influence everywhere. Like both my aunts are musicians, singers, piano player, upright bass player, married to a drummer kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like it's just always been there when I was a
Yeah.
kid.
Got the family orchestra right there.
For sure. Yeah.
Was there
Yeah.
ever any pressure, or maybe not even pressure, but from your dad to play piano, or was it just kind of whatever you want to do?
I played piano for the first time when I was like 5 or 6, maybe, and like I just it was nice. He was not like trying to force me to do anything by any means.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like has been an influence,
Yeah.
having a family. So like that.
That was the same thing for me. Like, my dad played guitar, taught guitar forever.
Yeah.
So when I was like 5, I was like, yeah, I want one now. But it was
Right.
never like, I feel like if I would have said I don't want to do music, it would have been fully supported.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Same
is
here.
more support than anything for sure.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
So how old were you when you came to this beautiful land?
When I mean, like 13 or 14 is when I like stuck here because my parents were here before that, and they like, I don't want to get into that whole thing, but like I was bounced around a lot between here and there when I was a kid. And then yeah, like right around 13 or 14 was when I decided to stick it out here and did middle school here. I was listening to like Parkway Drive and I Killed the Prom Queen, like a bunch of Australian hardcore bands. I just like
incredible.
Showed up in Wisconsin, like
So in middle school, were you like the outcast with music?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say like outcast. I've always been able to get along with people no matter what.
But as far as music goes, was it always like, oh, Julian likes that screamo stuff?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I had like a couple friends too who were into it, who like I was excited because I could like show them these bands, and they could show me the bands they liked, and
I feel like that was
iPods and
that was a golden era for that experience. Like now it's, if somebody tells me I should listen to a band, I take about 2 years before I it's just, I don't know, it's not the same. It's not that
no, like, you're right. Yeah, it's also like there's just fucking bands everywhere now, so it's like little, like, let's say a band like Dance Gavin Dance, right? When I was 14 or 15, I heard it and I was like, wow, this is unlike anything I've ever heard. And there's like, I feel like now there's not really like, if that band hadn't existed already and like gotten big, that like if a band like that tried to break through right now, it would just get completely lost in the noise, of what everyone else is doing, or not. I don't know, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way.
Yeah. Instead of just like learning about it organically, it's sort of like you get fed ads now, and you get curated playlists and stuff.
Yummy ads.
Delicious. Yeah.
So in middle school, were you like learning all of that kind of music on guitar?
Yeah, I started to. Yeah, I'll go from the first song that I taught myself on guitar with a little bit of help from my dad was Devil in Jersey City by Coheed and Cambria. I was like, yeah, feeling good about that one. This is after I learned a couple songs like via tab and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I started learning like some metalcore riffs, like learned some Parkway Drive, of course.
I mean, you learn one, you learn them all.
Yeah.
So when did the like I obviously know Whispered Hollows, but when was that your first band, or was there something before that?
I mean, that was my first like band that did anything. Yeah, I played in a couple like projects in Australia. Like when I was really just figuring out drums. Like I drummed in my friend's band when I was like 12 or something.
How cool was the name of the band?
We were just called The Chaos, so pretty cool.
It tracks.
It was good. I wore I think it was my stepmother's leather jacket when we played, a leather vest.
Hot damn.
It's good shit.
When did you, like, what was your first guitar? We'll start there.
Damn. Okay. I had a first act, and it was very shitty. And I could tell my mom bought it for me, and she was like, this is what I can afford for you at the moment, kind of thing. And I definitely played the shit out of it. And then she returned it because, and I actually have it sitting right here, so I'm just gonna grab it. It's shot right now. Hold on. I have here a Vox Soundcaster from like mid 60s. It says Vox up here on the headstock. You can just barely see, like you can't even see it in the camera. Tuning gears and tuning pegs are all shot. I need to replace this whole thing. But when I do that, I will have this bad boy back in my arsenal because it is just the flattest neck of any guitar. It was an amazing guitar to learn on because it like didn't hurt my fingers, so I could just play for like hours and hours and hours.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's a relic.
Did you ever find yourself like just starting out getting frustrated by like the quality of it, or is that not something you realized until you had nicer stuff?
No. I definitely was because like it didn't gent, and I needed like active pickups or something,
I feel like for our generation, like the MySpace generation and the gear forums and stuff, like having that, I always thought what I had wasn't good enough because I knew what was available.
Sure.
And I feel like that hindered my progress quite a bit because I was always like, well, of course I can't play this Avenged Sevenfold song on drums. I don't have the EW 9000 pedals. Like,
right. Yeah.
Of course.
No, I always made it a point to make the best of my gear no matter what it was. And I like really came to grips with that when I bought my first tube amp. It's just like, oh.
What was it?
It was actually that Jet City. Well, not the one I have now, but one that I bought a while back when I was like 20 maybe. Like I played with that solid state Marshall, the MG 100 or whatever for like way too long. And I always was, unhappy with the tone. It was always like shrill and weird and just like not a natural sounding tone. And then
do you have any gear that, I mean, obviously your first guitar you just showed, but is there anything else that you think you're going to have like for the long haul that just stuck with you?
Yeah. I like my my other electric too, my FGN. It's also sitting right here, so I'll grab it. This guy. It's featured on my Instagram today. It's just like I have like some gripes with it, like it's a little bit trebly, which like is just kind of a sound I like to stray away from. Is like all that really bitey, kind of annoying high end, just like doesn't do anything helpful for you in any setting really. So but it's like it's just like perfectly in tune all the way up the neck and like sounds fantastic out of an amp and plays like a dream. So I hope to hang on to this for the rest of my life. I feel like.
So when you were in the market for a guitar at that time, what like was there anything specific you were looking for that led you to that, or was it just kind of Silverburst?
It was kind of like not. It was okay. I was in Guardians. We were on the road, and our manager person at the time was like, "Hey, there's this company that will give us 50% off on guitars." So me and Clint Greendeer were like, "All right, let's check out what we got." And I was looking at like Les Paul Silverburst, Les Paul stuff at the time, and I was like, well, and I owned a Telly. It's like, well, I could just go for like another kind of Telly that's like a metal Telly. And I bought that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say no to a deal like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely a good way for a company to.
Yeah, it might have been like 40. It was like 40% off, I think, but it's just like.
Yeah.
I think that year we saw Every Time I Die was using them, and like Silverstein was using the same brand of guitars. I don't know if anyone still does, but I think they're sick.
Yeah, I mean, as a musician, especially on tour, when you hear money off, you're like, yeah, I can make that work.
and I have a hollow body telly that does not do well for playing metal. Yeah, it's like, okay.
Yeah, trust me, I know all about those pickups.
Yeah.
I'm currently shopping for new pickups for that telly I have too.
Sure.
But would you say guitar or drums is your main instrument?
Let's
Trust me,
let's backtrack because
I know how bad that question is to answer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I like started out on drums for sure. But then I really like through like middle school, early high school, when I didn't have a good kit or a good place to play before I was in any like bands that, um, I definitely played like a shitload of guitar, just like way more guitar. And that kind of solidified that as like what I would focus on for the next like 4 or 5 years. Cause there's like a handful of good drummers in my school, which is usually not the case. It's usually like there's 10 guitarists and one drummer, but I was lucky enough to find Ryan Salava at the time, who was just like the most solid drummer you would want that you'd ever expect to find in your high school in the Dells, and he like obviously inspired me a lot. So like I would play his kit, he would play my guitar, vice versa. So it's kind of always been like, this thing where I do both. But out of college, after I went to college for guitar, like out of that, I just like I wasn't finding gigs on guitar. Basically, it's like way more people need a drummer than a guitarist. So the last like 2-3 years, even more than that, honestly, if you want to backtrack to like teenagers and busy living, it's like, yeah, those bands needed drummers because there weren't any drummers in upper Wisconsin who were like up to the task kind of thing. And even now it's just like, I'll just drum, I like drumming a lot. I think I'm good at it. There's other gig opportunities, can play in cover bands, do weddings, do sessions, and then like still be a reliable guitarist because I have this like kind of percussive element that has developed in my guitar playing.
Yeah, I've noticed, being a drummer too, like when I had bass gigs, like you're just more aware of what's going on.
Yeah,
from that
for sure.
too, now when I'm playing guitar, I'm aware of what the bass player and the drummer's doing.
Yep.
And you know where to fit in, you know where to drop out.
Yeah.
When you're writing music, like what do you usually start the idea with? Like a guitar idea or melody idea?
It's different every time. Yeah. I mean, inspiration just comes when it comes. I'll tilt my stuff. This mini log, it's like an idea machine sometimes. Like you'll just find something and it's there, and you store the tone, and then you try and record something, and I'll make something based on that kind of thing. Or I might find like a chord I like on my guitar if I'm just like noodling around. Or I wrote one song when I was about like 20. I dreamed about it. That was the coolest thing that's ever happened to me, probably. I dreamed about this melody, and then I woke up and wrote a whole song. It's like, okay, if that could happen like every day, that'd be cool.
Yeah. I had sleep paralysis really bad one night, and then I couldn't go back to sleep, so I wrote a song that ended up being a pretty heavy song. So it's a good way to translate that into something.
Yeah. Damn, dog.
So, I mean, you said the mini log is, inspiration machine. Is there any other piece of gear you have that, like, when you use it or plug it in, it just kind of triggers an idea?
Yeah, and this is good because I didn't go back to the pedal board thing, but I bought a Strymon Big Sky from our friend Jason a few years ago when you and I were in a sweet band together called The Longest Year. 2 new likes today, by the way.
I know. I always get the notifications.
Okay, so the Big Sky, it's just like it's its own thing. I mean, it's just reverb, it's just delay, whatever, but like it has its own sound. And when a song is kind of already written, I guess you can make it something like way, way sick. But also just for like coming up with ideas, a lot of those tones just offer like you just hear stuff in the trails. Like you
Mhm.
start imagining a full band when you're just like playing on yourself because it just sounds so
Yeah.
damn good. You
It's a
know?
feel thing too with
Yeah.
that pedal. Like every note just feels where it should be.
Yes.
Like I've been, ever since I went digital and I don't have any pedals anymore. I've been trying
Ooh,
to I've been trying to recreate the like the cloud setting on the big
sure.
sky. Been looking at forums and posts telling how to get that in the Kemper, and nothing comes close. So
Yeah.
it's just a special pedal. A bunch of
Yeah.
township songs exist because of that pedal too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what?
Yes. If I didn't see you using it, in Township, I probably wouldn't have like dropped the dough on it, to be honest. And I'm
All right,
super glad I did. So
Strymon, I would like my money, please.
you're 10%.
Hmm.
You can ask Jason for 10% of the money that I bought it off him for.
Commish. So what else? What else do you have on the pedal board these days?
I have a JHS double barrel. It's overdrives, two sides. It's pretty sick. Tuner.
Underrated.
You got to have the carbon copy. I don't think I've ever seen a band play like in the last 4 or 5 years where not at least one member of the band has a carbon copy somewhere in their setup. Like
Hmm.
it's pretty much just an essential pedal. I think. Um, I have a very small footprint volume pedal. It's the Tapestry Bloomery. It's like nice and tiny, but still fits your whole foot and
Hmm.
has that full range of motion. What else? Jeez, a lot of my pedals are kind of busted at the moment. I had a couple of those Hotone pedals, those like little guys. Those both crapped out, sadly. Yeah, but I love them. One was the analog chorus, the other's the octave. I don't know if I can save them or not.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I want to get into is soldering and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So I can,
Circuit boards are where I get lost.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to be able. I want to not have to rely on other people to fix my mistakes, which I make a lot. But
I mean, you stomp on shit, it breaks. Makes
that is
sense.
true.
Yeah.
Oh wait, so like when you set out to write something, do you have a certain like ritual, if you want to call it that, or can you just sit down and pop out an idea, or does it have to be like circumstantial?
I mean, lyrically, it has to be circumstantial for me. I've noticed if I try to write lyrics and I try to force it, they just come out crap. Um, but if I have a moment where I really feel something strongly, then I can just take it and run with it. But like as far as actually making like a track or like writing a guitar part, it's it's kind of similar, I guess. Like sometimes one idea will just like fuel the rest of it, but a lot of the times I'll just sit there, I'll just like open up Ableton, like find some cool sounds I like, and then just be like, just sit there for a half hour, like
Yeah.
doing nothing. It's hard. It's hard to make it happen, but I've been trying to do it every day for the last year or so, just like pretty much just forcing myself to do more of it, which feels good. So
Yeah, it's like a creative workout.
yeah,
The more you do it, the more you're used to it,
and the easier it gets. Yeah,
mhm. And
for
you
sure.
can a lot like ideas influence themselves like each other, and then you build on them a lot easier that
Yeah,
way, rather than like writing a couple songs and then months later going back to them. That's just
yeah,
it's tough to do that with breaks in there because you kind of lose your rhythm. But
yeah, for sure. Sometimes it's that time away from a song is good though. I won't lie.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
fresh
when you're
ears.
yeah, fresh ears, fresh eyes, all that stuff is great. Like if I'm learning a song and I'm having trouble nailing a part, I'll just play like 5 songs I know I can nail, come back to
Yeah,
it, and like
yeah.
confidence.
Human brains are crazy like that too. They'll like your brain is shuffling that information back around, and like when you're not thinking about it, your brain's still doing something with it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So when you're setting out, or like when you're writing a song in a particular genre or style, are you listening to music of that type, or is that something you try to avoid?
I mean, I don't know. Like if I was trying to write trap beats, I guess I'd listen to more trap kind of, you know what I mean? Like if anything, just to like draw some inspiration or like know what kind of sounds are like popular in the genre. But like I said, like I listen to so many different things that like, I don't know. I don't really feel like I can make music for a specific genre like right now. It's just
Yeah.
whatever it is whatever it is to me. Like
Yeah, that's a good point to be at, though.
I think so, yeah. It's definitely fun and push some boundaries and, you know, put yourself in a box kind of.
So Ritual Room is your current band.
Yeah.
Where can people find that? What can they expect? When's your next show?
We had to cancel them all. You can just find us on social media at the moment. We're working on getting our Spotify stuff organized and all that.
If
But
you
we
had
need
to describe to a complete stranger what it sounded like, how would you do
man.
that?
It's kind of like
Without using comparisons.
I can't do it without using comparisons, and the comparisons are comparisons I do not want to make. You know the two, Paramore and Evanescence. But you know, it doesn't sound like either of those bands, but it has like, you know, we're like an ambient rock band with a girl singing. You know, it sounds like that. It's loud and it's cool. It's a little emo.
3 guitars, correct?
3 guitars. Yeah,
I remember those days.
it's good. It's good shit.
It's stressful. Well, Julian, I appreciate you coming on, being
Yeah,
my
appreciate it.
inaugural guest.
Thank you.
While this quarantine persists, you can find Julian on Facebook, Julian Russell. I won't use your middle name. I'm not going to dox you like that.
Thanks.
But he's been doing a bunch of live streams, songwriting process, things like that. Very fun to watch. Very cool to get a POV view of what his computer sees when he's beeping and booping on there.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks, man. It
Yeah.
was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
we'll talk soon.
We will.
Yeah, great conversation with Julian. I want to thank you guys again for checking it out, and make sure you check out what he's up to, Ritual Room, and his live streams and everything, and support him. And yeah, as corny as it is, you know, if you guys want to help me out, demolish that subscribe button, shoot a crossbow at that like button, and stay tuned for more conversations.